Welcome to Capacity Conscious Marketing. If you're a coach or practitioner with a busy brain that just never seems to work with the norm, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Polly Pollock, and in these episodes I'm going to be teaching you how to get visible, create reputation online, and sell your signature offer predictably without social media. I'll teach you everything I've learned over the last decade about building a capacity-conscious, life-first, profitable business that's driven by human connection rather than trendy tactics that burn you out, all in a way that works hand in hand with your unique strengths. All right, let's dive in. Hello and welcome back. So first of all, just a couple things. So first of all, you may have noticed the intro's changed again, and maybe you haven't noticed, who knows, but basically last week's episode, which I was really proud of and you guys fucking loved, has been deleted by Spotify. I'm gutted. It did really well and you guys loved it, and it's been freaking deleted because look, sometimes I have trouble reading things, and I misread the license agreement for that intro music, and turns out it basically shouldn't have been used for a podcast. So you live, you learn, basically I had to choose a new intro, and therefore I will be re-uploading that episode because it was such a banger later in the week. So yeah, my bad. Oops. But anyway, other than that, I'm just recovering from an amazing weekend. My gosh, my summer has just been insane. It's been so good. I've pretty much spent the entire summer bar working, which I love, and working with my students is always, the reason I do what I do, and I love my work. But I've had so much more time this year than I ever have in years before to really, really just live my freaking life. I've been to Mallorca twice. We're going again. Obviously we're moving there next year, and we just want to keep going as often as we can to kind of explore places. So we're going again later on this year, and we've just been at country festivals and music places and food festivals. It's just been fucking awesome. I've been in the sea. I've just been loving life, and I feel like, obviously I'm biased, but the without me not having social media as such a central point in my life this year has really, really showed. And I obviously have had quite a big social media presence for my business, for a long time now. And, last year I came off of it. If you don't already know, obviously that is why the basis of what I teach now is what it is. I have gotten my life back, and my business has literally done so much better than it ever has before. I just feel so incredibly blessed, and I don't know, I just wanted to share because, yeah, it's not something that's spoken about that much, and I feel like it is important to talk about, but that is, the core reason why I think I've been able to be so much more present in my life. And yeah, I'm just loving it. Anyway, so enough of that sappy shit. So I really do get emotional though, because it's wow, I really didn't know this kind of presence was missing, and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful. So yeah, so anyway, this episode, I'm really excited for this episode because it's going to be about simplicity. So I really want to challenge a few things, and I guess it's going to be a little bit of what's the phrase, a permission slip. I really kind of hate that phrase, but I don't know why. So you don't need anybody's permission, just go do your fucking thing. But for lack of a better word, I really want to challenge a few things and really almost give you the evidence, because sometimes that's what it is. We just need to see it in a different way to actually open our minds up to, oh wait, it's not so scary to do it another way. Oh, I can do it my way. Sometimes it just takes another person to go first. So I really don't feel like enough people talk about the fact that simplicity is actually key when it comes to growing your business, especially when you're in the first kind of foundational phases, and honestly, even the growing in terms of the scaling. I think we overcomplicate that side of things so much as well, but you really don't need more offers, more funnels, more content, more scattered action to make more money. And I really, really want to go into that with you today. So, a lot of the time, I think we really assume that making more money means making our businesses way more complicated. It just naturally is something that a lot of us would think in our heads, based on the advice that we see, just based on how we think things should, like, quote unquote, should work. And yeah, I think especially when new students come into NFSA, the Neuro Friendly Sales Accelerator, which is my signature program, they often arrive carrying a lot of baggage from like the last year or so of kind of trying to run their business, and they'll often come with a lot of stuff that we have to then simplify together. So like 3 or 4 different offer ideas, that they call kind of like an offer suite, quote unquote, and scattered marketing, either like an overcomplicated or a really unclear niche. It's like either one of the two. A really complicated funnel system that they think that they have to try and get their head around. Loads of ideas about what they just should be doing, and really underneath all of that kind of mess sometimes is often this belief of like, oh, if I'm not doing it this way, then I'm not doing it right. Like everybody else is doing it this way, so why can't I? Or like, I should be. And I completely understand this because I did exactly the same thing when I had my first business. And like literally from the get-go, I knew deep down that complicated shit just wasn't going to work for me. Like, but I wanted to follow it anyway. In fact, I didn't want to. I thought I needed to follow it anyway. Personally, I do not thrive off of creating and creating and creating new things all the fucking time. I really don't. That's not the way I'm designed. Like, even my human design, I don't know if you're into that. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Take it with a pinch of salt. But even my human design, I'm a generator. Like, it's not the way that I'm designed in that way, but I know myself even beyond those labels anyway. It's just not what I like to do, despite my ADHD, despite sometimes this impulsive part of me that crops up. That's not how I work, and I know that's not how I work. But for a long period of time, I tried to force myself to work that way and run my business that way. And looking back, I really, really can see that a lot of it came from dysregulation. My nervous system was just fucking shot to pieces. I'm like grappling for something that just mimics safety, and that's honestly what most of our systems are doing, especially when you get into something like business or anything that feels a little bit like uncharted territory or unsafe or whatever it is, right? It's just what we're designed to do. And I thought, if I'm doing more, something is going to get a bite, right? Something is going to be enough, and everyone else is doing it, which means that I should be doing it too. If my business looks more complicated, maybe that's probably just because I'm doing it properly, I'm doing it right. And actually none of that came from self-trust. It all came from dysregulation. It was trying to find safety in more for the sake of more. And again, like, I do think that it doesn't help that we are in the information age where we have so many differing opinions on honestly everything, but especially in the online business world, we have so many, like actually, I'm gonna reference one of my students because she is fantastic at what she does. So was it last week? I think it was last week. We had our call, and she is kind of like a few weeks out ish from her launch. She's evergreen. She's doing kind of like a promo, and she's fantastic, seriously fantastic at what she does. She's great, and she's got everything done so much ahead of time. And she's actually just now having a great summer with her kids, really embodying what she teaches. She's fantastic. And she's kind of was like, I feel like I've done everything. I feel like I'm in this week now of like, I should be doing more. And what's really not helping is that I've got these ads on Facebook, which I'm now like saying like, no, I'm like marking them as like, do not come up again, leave me alone. But she was saying she was getting overwhelmed with these ads that are just basically littering her feed. That's like, oh, you need this, like if you're not making daily sales, like if you haven't set up your systems to do X, Y, and Z, if you're not making passive income. And she was just like, whoa. And she's so beautifully self-aware, because she was like, I know that this has just really, really put a shit on my mood. Like it's really, really just pissed all over my strawberries. And I think that's, she's really great at what she does. Great at what she do. Really great at what she does. She's not really by any means a beginner in her business, but it really, really still got into her head. And I think that's, I just wanted to reference my student there, because I think that, like I said, she's not even a beginner in what she does, but I think the more beginner you are, sometimes it can feel more intense being kind of, I guess, open to all of that information coming in. And but like that being said, it's even still people who are, they know what they do, they know their work, they know that they've had clients, all of that, and it still gets in your head. And so like I said, it really doesn't help that we're in that kind of really information heavy world where it's coming at you with all of these shiny new toys constantly, and it's just like, what the fuck do I do? And it can feel really, really confusing. And that also, when you don't know the game, when you haven't had a couple laps around the sun yet, when you haven't got that evidence of the thing that you're doing is working, that can make you really, really not trust yourself. And that's where it gets dangerous, because you start to rely on all of these shiny new toys that you think you need because it looks like someone who's basically like promoting all of that shit knows better than you. And that's where it gets really hairy, because you need to be building that muscle of self-trust constantly in business, and those things don't help, right? So anyway, I just wanted to reference that. But I think we've just got this overall idea that complexity is needed to grow your business to, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever it is, whatever your goal is, and it needs to be more complex. And like, complexity is not necessarily like sophistication, in terms of like, complexity doesn't make your system work better. Like, there's no correlation between the two. There's really, really not. Sometimes it's just more friction actually disguised as strategy. Potentially sometimes the more moving parts you have, the more opportunities there are for like I said, friction points between actually the way that your audience is receiving something, you to get overwhelmed, your clients to get confused, you to procrastinate, like things to fall through the cracks. And yeah, like I said, complexity for the sake of complexity is just not needed. And so anyway, I want to walk you through my own system in the way that I use it, and for me, and also the way that I tend to teach it. Obviously everybody's like in NFSA, everybody's kind of flow between their offers, their visibility, their marketing, their sales looks slightly different based on the business, based on them, based on what they like. But this is the way that I like to run things myself, and the general way that I like to kind of teach like having simple systems in your business that create more revenue and also don't fry the shit out of your brain. Basically, that's it. And I think people often assume like for example, at the level that I am, like, oh, you must have like more. Like I get people asking me all the time of like, when I'm in conversation or when I'm like, doing a bit of networking or whatever, like, not like networking events, but like, chatting with other business owners and stuff. They often say like, oh, so how do you run things? Like, do you have like a big team now? Do you have like, X system? Like, what system for this do you use? And I'm like, literally, like, no, I don't have a big team. I don't have a big systems. I don't have like all these tripwires and funnels and fucking whatever else. Like, I just couldn't give a fuck. And like, honestly, I just don't want to run my business that way. And when I did run my business that way, I wasn't making half of the money that I am now, and I was miserable. So I'm good. And it would be really easy for me to sit here at the level that I am and say, oh, these other business owners who are, potentially a little bit further along than me, or, are in, whatever, are asking me and saying, oh, like, I don't know about that. But you know what? Fuck it. Like, it works for me, and it works bloody well for me. So that's the kind of level of self-trust that I want you to eventually be able to have in business, and it doesn't come easy, but like, I want to share this with you because hopefully it will act as the evidence that you need to see to let yourself off the hook with this constant need for complexity, or thinking that you're just like not doing enough, or like you need to be running things a certain way. So let's get into it. So I want to start off with offers. I think that this is a really good one. I talk about this shit all the time. So the traditional kind of quote unquote offer suite, and there's nothing bad about an offer suite, but I'm going to go into kind of where it can get too complex. So, the traditional offer suite kind of tends to look something a little bit like, the free lead magnet to low ticket offer, to maybe a mid ticket offer, to a signature offer, to an ascension offer. And again, there's so many different models for offer suites. I'm just using one. Maybe there's different tiers within that. Maybe there's different offers for different stages of the customer journey. It's a lot sometimes, and especially like people try and build all this stuff off the bat as well, and that's where it gets really confusing. And so let's use an example. Let's say you're a coach and your signature offer is an 8 or 12-week coaching program, and you have a low ticket mini training or maybe like a membership or something like that. You have a freebie, a lead magnet. So someone would come through ID, like, again, this is on paper how it works. It doesn't always work like this. Someone comes in through the freebie, low ticket offer, signature offer, higher ticket. That's like on paper what, the norm of that is. And obviously some people will come in straight into your signature offer from a referral. Like, this is the whole point of building a flywheel and not a funnel. Like, yes, a funnel, but a flywheel that funnel sits within, basically. But anyway, regardless. So, people will say that you need this because the logic is behind this isn't necessarily wrong, but this is where I want to challenge it, to kind of give you this this road to approach it from a more simple way. So the idea is, obviously everything leads to your signature offer, right? A low ticket offer essentially lowers the barrier to entry because people experience your work at a lower price, at a lower risk, right? So then that trust builds. So your signature offer, bringing people into your signature offer, is all about trust at the center, right? Sales is all about trust. So then they move into your signature offer. But here is where it gets confusing, because it's now become really popular to have, a new low ticket offer every month, a mid ticket offer, a signature offer, an ascension offer, different tiers, different funnels, like fucking everything, different email sequences for each, different tripwires for the, it's so much, like so many moving parts. And I do think that some popular names in the coaching business kind of industry have made this really popular because it essentially increases customer lifetime value, which is a good thing only if it's done ethically. And by that I mean, like, retention is obviously a really good thing. If someone loves working with you and wants more support because they've gotten to a certain level, that's great. I have students in NFSA extend all the time, and they're like, I really do love this support, and I want to continue because it feels really supportive for me, and it's been really, really helpful, and I want to take this to the next level. However, that's completely different from manufacturing more things that someone needs to buy. So the distinction I want to make here is, there's a difference between, like, I've worked with you, I've got loads from it, and I want more, versus you need this offer, but actually you need this offer first, and then you need this one to get the most out of that one, and actually that's the only way that you're going to be able to get to the original thing that I promised you were definitely going to get, is to buy all of these offers. And that's where things can become really A, unethical, and B, unnecessarily complicated. And again, that's not at all what I'm not saying that all offer suites are built in this way, like, definitely not. But I'm saying that between you, me, and the gatepost, I think that that's why it's become so popular in the coaching industry, by some of the big names who have said that you quote unquote need to build things that way. That's just my spicy little opinion, take it or leave it. But my point is, we don't really want to create, ethically or not ethically, whatever, that was just my little spicy take. We don't want to create constant friction points for no reason, right? So there's another little myth here that I want to call out when it comes to you need a low ticket offer, is this kind of low ticket buying power myth. So there's this idea that if someone has bought something from you, they've now got quote unquote buying power, and therefore, they're more likely to buy your high ticket offer. But I don't actually think that that's necessarily true. People impulse buy things all the time. Someone buying, a $20 product or whatever doesn't mean that they're suddenly ready to buy your $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 coaching program. It really doesn't happen like that. It's not just about the money. It's not just about quote unquote buying power. It's actually about whether they trust you, whether they need the thing that they're going to move on to. So your signature offer, their intent, and whether it's the right time in the journey for them. And so that's a kind of another myth within this, is that you need a low ticket offer, because that's how you build trust. And no, it doesn't really work like that. So I want to give you an inside look at my little offer system, because like I said, I think a lot of people will potentially assume that I'm working with this really sophisticated, complex, like overcomplicated system, but I'm really not. And I'm so proud to share that, because I don't see any point in, like, what is the point in not sharing it and being honest, because my business works very, very well, and I'm very happy with the way that my business runs. And do you know what? Fuck it. The more simple, the better. The less things to overcomplicate and put on our plate, so I can spend more time with my students, so I can spend more time living my life. Like, I'm a fan of systems, though. As I put it, I'm a slut for strategy. I'm a hoe for systems, and I am, because systems and strategy allows us to be free and really have that freedom-filled business, which is everything I'm trying to teach you. However, we can go too far with that shit, and it can just be like another form of shackles. So anyway, what my kind of actual offer system looks like. So my signature offer is obviously NFSA. Currently, it's really the only place that I work with students. That's my main place. I do one-to-ones occasionally. Not so much anymore. Right now I'm not taking one-to-ones because I'm focusing solely on NFSA, but I do tend to take them on the side sometimes. And those are kind of the more really high ticket one-to-one spaces, but I'm really just focusing on NFSA these days. So really, like, one signature offer, that's all I work with. I don't have a low ticket offer. I have a lead magnet. Sometimes that lead magnet will be paid, and it'll be kind of like a coupon situation. But I have one lead magnet at a time, and that is literally it. So that brings people into my email community. What happens after that is I don't bring people into a funnel that brings people into a low ticket and then a mid ticket and then an email sequence for both of those things, and then it brings people into the NFSA. Like, I just don't do it like that. That, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having a freebie to low ticket to signature offer. That's really not it. If that works for your business, that's absolutely fine. I even provide like templates like similar to that in NFSA, because some people's business works like that, but it's not every coaching business that needs to work like that at all. And so when people are in my email community, I obviously nurture my email community with emails. I give a lot of value in those emails: podcast training, free resources, relevant trainings, and then I will also provide a handful every kind of few weeks of free social media exit plan sessions. Those are my free 30-minute sessions where someone can basically come and book a call with me, and we'll spend 30 minutes together really working out how they're going to get visible without social media and what they can take off their plate, so that actually that feels good for their capacity as well. But that's really a relationship building thing for me, to basically get to know my most high intent people who are like, I'm ready, like, I'm ready, like, tell me what to do. And again, that's why I go back to, it's not about spending $20, it's about the intent of the person. Are they really in a position to be saying, yeah, I want the solution, like, spend 30 minutes with me, let's go. That's what I care about. And so that's the main bulk of kind of what I do. And then every 6 weeks, I'll also do some kind of free group experience for my email community. And that will be, again, hugely valuable in its own right. But it also acts as a conversion tool for people who are ready to take the next step into NFSA as well. So that is literally it. I do nothing else paid at the moment other than NFSA. And honestly, it has worked better for me than any other time that I've done anything paid or like low ticket to mid-ticket to all of this other stuff, like I have definitely had my fair share of dabbling in that since I've been in business. And I mean, I've never been happier in business since doing it in a more simple way. I've really not. And it suits my energy. I know I show up to it all better. I'm not constantly trying to sell different things. I mean, that is just like a living fucking hellscape in my mind, just personally. Like, you might love it, and if you do, that's great. But I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse. I mean, I don't even know how I was. God, I don't even want to relive it. I'm getting PTSD by even talking about it. Oh man, I look at some of the shit I used to do in business, and like I'm so with all the empathy and compassion and gratitude in the world for the me that got me here. My God, what a fucking trooper. I just don't miss it. Like, I look at, the mess that I kind of had at one point with all the offers I was running, and the social media side of things, and just so scattered, and I'm just like, Jesus, man, how did you not like explode from stress? I think I was like not even, I don't even know. But yeah, that's my vibe with it anyway. I know exactly what I'm moving people towards at all times, and I run my business in a way that is so relationship first, and I know that that works for me in the way that I work, and I know that that's how I build trust with people best. And I'm more than happy with that, and I know a lot of you listening will be resonating with that, but I think that you just haven't been taught how to make that part the strategy, rather than seeing it as something that you can't keep up with. Well, it's not something you can't keep up with. It's a massive advantage, but you just need to know how to actually make that the strategy. So yeah, and the live interactive nature of the free experiences, the calls that I do, I know I'm still getting really serious people into my world, and I'm building those relationships with people, and whether people are ready immediately, or ready in 3 months, or ready in 6 months, or not at all, that's all part of your pipeline essentially. And whether you're doing like calls, group events, workshops, teaching, you're ultimately building relationships. And someone might not be, a go now person, but they might be a go in 3 months. They might be someone, then someone from kind of like the previous group might be ready now, and then 3 months down the line, it all works in a trail, and you kind of build a pipeline of people that you have relationships with. You don't need to force everything through a funnel. You don't need to like push people into buying, because you've actually got a system that works on relationships first. You can let people move in that pipeline when they're ready, if that makes sense. So visibility now, I just want to touch on. This is kind of why I teach visibility the way that I do, because it all links to that. Obviously, simple systems are like the essentially the complexity is replaced with relationships first, and that doesn't mean getting on, a call with everybody on your email list. What I mean by that is, like, the reason I teach this kind of simple marketing and sales strategy is because I'm teaching initially, when it comes to visibility, a way of getting visible that is already priming people for trust. Okay, so compare this with social media. So social media is, it feels very tactile, because you're essentially picking someone out of a doom scroll. You try and hook them with a reel, they click something, they're in, they go onto your freebie, they enter into a tripwire, then they're into an email sequence, another offer, another funnel. Like, that's what you're kind of taught in the social media world, right? And that's why this has all become so popular. The issue isn't necessarily that any individual part of that is bad, but there's no initial trust built on the same way as what the visibility strategy that I like to teach, which is, things like podcast guesting, speaking in a community. So when someone hears me on a podcast, or I speak in a community, I speak at an event, I teach, I do a summit, I partner with a company, whatever it is, they've already heard me, experienced me, kind of had some time with me in some capacity, heard how I think, got value from me, started to understand what it's like kind of getting to know me in a like as it would be like how I work with them, you know, they're warmer from the get-go, right? So when, and they have the intent of like, I'm at this initial place that I heard you speak at or experienced you because I'm ready to solve my problem, rather than people who are just like vegging out on a doom scroll. And so they're warmer, so when they join my email community or come to a free experience of mine or whatever it is, there's already partially a relationship there. You know, I'm not having to manufacture all of that trust through like 15 different touch points or whatever it is. And I think that's the difference, is it's real relationships and real trust versus manufactured trust. And manufactured trust is where it kind of feels like you have to have all these complex systems. So I'm hoping this is starting to kind of like make sense, and all the puzzle pieces are kind of clicking together, like, oh shit, I get it now. So which leads me on to kind of the capacity part of all of this. The reason I like to teach this simple flow from, it's the thing is, I say simple, but it's like it's simple but 10 times more impactful. But the reason I like to teach this way of like, you know, visibility, nurturing and selling is because none of this requires the same output every single day. Like, I'm not going to tell you that you need to spend an hour to an hour and a half or more posting on Instagram every single day. You know, creating something new every single day, launching every month, consistently just making new offers all the time. And that's why I love it, because this way of marketing and showing up in your business is so much more capacity friendly than what we're told that we have to do, quote unquote, have to do these days. And so the thing, like a question that I'd love for you to kind of ask yourself, if you find yourself thinking, oh, maybe I need another offer, or oh, maybe I need another funnel, maybe I need another email sequence, maybe I need something new. Ask yourself, like, do I actually need this, or am I uncomfortable trusting what I've already kind of built and I'm trying to get off the ground? Because honestly, when it comes to, like I said at the beginning of this episode, it's really hard to trust yourself when you've got all of this information kind of flooding in, about what you should be doing, but that's just causing literally more dysregulation. And then everything that we're doing strategy wise or action wise is not coming from any space of clarity, because when you're dysregulated, you're literally just gripping, you're not thinking or acting with any kind of clarity, and it's all basically just from a state of panic at times. So sometimes that urge is really coming from just like dysregulation, so that's something to be really really aware of. But also simplicity and being able to take this more simple approach does require self-trust. And when you have evidence, even just an inkling of evidence that something works, then you can operate easier essentially from simplicity, because you're like, oh, I've seen that this works before. Your system starts to relax because it's like, oh, right, that's a given. I've seen this works before. I can trust it to a degree, right? You know, you're not pushing through it. You're not just saying, oh, I just need to trust myself. I just need to like do it this way. I just need to, you know, whatever it is, you're not kind of pushing through. You know, you need evidence to actually create that really like internal safety that you can trust yourself. And yeah, you need to know logically, like, oh yeah, this gets people interested, or, you know, this, I know that this works for me. I know that this converts because it has converted. I'm going to do more of that. I'm going to try and replicate that, you know. And once you have that evidence, like, again, going back to my own story with this kind of change that I had, from focusing on scattered offers to one offer, you know, I had, when I first started NFSA, it was actually the offer I had before NFSA, which was a couple years ago now. And that was like a version of NFSA. And that was the first time I was like, I'm not doing anything else. Fuck this. I'm doing one thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is where I'm meant to be. And after that, I was just like, I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel every fucking month. I'm not doing it. And so that was the first bit of evidence that I had, for myself. So if you are similar to me and you need a clear path, you kind of thrive with one or two things to focus on, you know, fewer things happening at once, that's not a bad thing. Like, we have just really been convinced that we need to be able to juggle everything, and like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm a friggin' boss, and like I can do like 10 different things at once. And like, do you know what, if you can and you thrive that way, fucking awesome. Seriously, I'm not putting you down. It's just that I think a lot of us who don't work that way, we have our own skills that can make us hugely successful if we lean into them. But a lot of us don't get the chance because we're convinced that there's only one way that you should be doing it. Otherwise, it's like you're not working hard enough, or you're not doing things in the way that you should, or how other people are doing it, or to the extent that other people are doing it. And I need you to know that that's just fucking bullshit. It really is. And the more you lean into how you're really meant to be working, the better, because it'll cause you a lot less pain if you just stop resisting it. And yeah, no one way of making a business work, believe me. Yeah, I think there's a really interesting saying, and it's like, businesses don't fail, people fail. And I don't necessarily think like fail is the right word, but you're the driver of the vehicle, right? You've got to make sure you're driving the vehicle in the way that it will work for you. There are plenty of ways to skin a cat. There are, plenty of ways to drive that vehicle forward. I mean, sometimes not. Maybe it's a bad analogy actually, because like, I mean, depends what you're driving, but you've got to make sure you're doing it right. You're the driver of the business. You've got to make sure you're doing it in a way that works for you. Otherwise, you're just going to keep you're spinning up your wheels, and the car's just going to be like lumpy, and then your head gasket's going to blow, and then it's just all going to be fucked. So, you have so many unique skills and so many unique ways of working, and you just need to put them to use rather than thinking that they're all a bad thing, because they're not. And so, within all this whole process of kind of simplicity, I really would rather you, yeah, like, if you know that this is the way you work, make one thing your baby. Chip away at it, make it better, improve the delivery, get better at selling it, get better at talking about it, build proof, build your reputation around this, like, really one thing that you're known for. Bring more and more revenue into it month by month. Really make that your foundation. You can still have little things around it to kind of scratch the creativity itch. That's honestly why I like doing kind of like live experiences every 6 weeks or whatever it is, so that I can still scratch that itch, but I know it's all funneling into one place. You really don't need to create something new and important and big every month or every couple months. It's just a fast track past to burnout, and we just don't want to go there. We really don't. So I hope that this kind of shifted your perspective a little bit. Let me know, leave a comment, message me, whatever it is. I really would love to know, because like I said, when we're around certain types of information all the time, it's really easy to believe that there's one way of doing something. But I hope that now that you've actually seen an inside look into how I run things and how I teach things, I hope you'll set yourself free from from this like belief that you need to do it someone else's way and it needs to be super overcomplicated. So with that said, if you are kind of listening to this thinking like, yeah, I've made things a bit more complicated than it needs to be, especially when it comes to your visibility and how you're actually getting visible, or maybe you're kind of just doing things in someone else's way and it doesn't actually suit the way that you work, then I'd love for you to join me for a free social media exit plan session, as I'm now calling them. So this is pretty much 30 minutes with me, completely dedicated to you. We're going to sit down together over a coffee or a matcha or an iced tea or whatever you drink, and we're going to look at your current visibility strategy, what is working within that, what's not, what's really draining you, and versus kind of what you're actually getting back from it. So this is where we can look at where to take something off of your plate that's maybe just not serving you. Probably, I'm guessing, social media, if you're listening to this podcast, or maybe you're just kind of sick of relying on it. We're also going to look at your natural strengths and what you actually enjoy. Then we're going to look at how to put that into a visibility strategy, so I can point you in the right direction of where to start. We can look at, we can discuss a few different options. So that maybe podcast guesting, maybe teaching, maybe speaking, partnerships, something a little bit in between. And then I will point you in the right direction of one thing or the first kind of few steps that you can start with. So really the goal here ultimately is to stop your business revolving around social media, revolving on kind of showing up every single day and exhausting yourself, and creating a really sustainable visibility and marketing strategy, and essentially creating a life first capacity conscious business. That's the end goal here. So we're going to work on that first slice, which is visibility, and I'm going to point you in the right direction of where, based on your business, your niche, how you run things, and what you've got going on, where I would start, visibility wise, off of social media. So the link for that is in the show notes. So if you want to book one of those in, you can click that, and if there is a time free, then it is all yours. So yeah, I'd love to see your name on my calendar. All right, I will see you guys next week.